Hey guys, and welcome to the ChooseFI radio podcast. Today on the show, we are going to be discussing this past week's episode where we finally talked about Bitcoin. Got a lot of feedback on that, and actually, surprisingly, most of it was good. And that's a very polarizing topic, so I can't wait to get into it. After we finish that, we're actually going to bring in feedback from our community and talk about your thoughts, your ideas on the show. And in particular, Steve wants to share how he used an HSA to crush his tax bill, making it absolutely his frugal win of the week. Kelly has a question about 5 tips to give to kids that are prepping to go to college. And Jim wants to highlight some extremely cool career options. Welcome to the ultimate crowdsourced personal finance show. This is your Friday Roundup.
You're listening to ChooseFI Radio. The blueprint for financial independence lives here. If you're looking to unlock the secrets to financial independence and early retirement, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and join a community of like-minded people who are getting off the hamster wheel and taking control of their lives in the pursuit of financial independence. ChooseFI, your home for financial independence online.
All right, Brad. Well, this episode's going to be a lot of fun. So much to cover. And honestly, the best part of this show is being able to bring in what else is going on inside the community. What are people grappling with? And what ideas do they have to share? So I'm really excited to get into this. But before we do that, what's going on in your world, man?
I've had a crazy kind of week. We actually just moved into our new house about a week ago. And yeah, it has just been busy. You know, moving is never easy. And the way we went about it is just kind of odd because we only moved 2 miles down the road. So it wasn't like, okay, this crazy fervor to get everything ready and just have the movers move everything in one fell swoop. We kind of leisurely did it, which has really added to the stress in some levels.
I was going to say nothing leisurely about it.
Yeah, I guess leisurely maybe a bit of an exaggeration because I've been working essentially 16-hour days for the last 7 days. But, you know, it's funny to leave stuff at the old house and just kind of move at I must have done 20 to 30 trips now back and forth. So, yeah, it's been very, very interesting.
And you become acutely aware of whether or not your home is a 1-story home or a 2-story home when you're moving.
That is very, very true. And you also become acutely aware of how much stuff you actually own, which is interesting. So we've talked obviously ad nauseum about me wanting to be this minimalist, right, in my perfect world. And in fairness, we did a really good job of kind of culling a lot of our possessions. It doesn't feel like we have that much stuff in the grand scheme of things. And now it's a lot more orderly. We have this kind of storage room as opposed to an attic and everything just shoved up there. We got rid of probably half of our attic in terms of stuff, just donated it and things like that. And we now have this storage room downstairs where I can actually physically see what we own, like all this miscellaneous junk you have in your life. And Laura and I can now walk in there and say like, okay, do we really need that? Or put a time limit on something. Hey, if we haven't used this in a year, it might be time to get rid of it. So I think that's definitely going to help with our little minimalism adventure, I guess.
I definitely have that attic that stuff just gets put into. And I guess I have a confession. I have a weird obsession with the original boxes for stuff. Like this is the ultimate just wasted space. You have an empty box that's taking up space in your attic, and it's not at this point being used for any sort of purpose, but it's just, oh, well, what if I need to put the item back in the original box in case I were to move or relocate or something else? It's just dumb. I remember at one point in time, when I was a college student, I had a Lancer. It was a Mitsubishi Lancer, and I moved, I think, 5 times over 5 semesters, and everything I owned could be fit into 2 to 3 car trips in this little Lancer. I can no longer make that claim.
Yeah, I wonder how many Lancers full it would take now.
That's the universal measurement stick for how much crap you have.
A Lancer full. I like that.
Adding to the lexicon.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, it's been cool. We've had just a ton of help from our family. Laura's parents have been down here just working tirelessly. And my mom came into town and has been a huge help. And actually, my brother is visiting from Santiago, Chile, which is just really cool that he got to be here just in general to spend a handful of days with him. And actually, you're going to meet him in a little bit, which is neat. And yeah, just having everybody here in the new house and helping out, it's just been really, really wonderful.
Yeah, and that's going to be cool. And one of the things with Scott, your brother, is that we were going to try to get him on the show some point this year. I think him and Rosemary, and talk about the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion Program, which is something that for expats and people that are living overseas, this yet another tool to put in the toolbox. I mean, he's someone that has actually benefited from this.
Yeah, not only that, but international teaching is kind of a cool little hack that many teachers in the US don't know about. And I feel like for the FI community, people with adventurous spirits, it's something they should really look into. It is absolutely supercharged my brother's path to FI. It's almost mind-boggling, frankly. Like, he lives in this wonderful, safe metropolitan city and lots of culture. He works at basically the best school in all of South America. I think his total compensation package is somewhere in the vicinity of double what he was making here in Virginia. And they pay for his living expenses, and the tax rate is super low. It's like all these things you just keep adding on and adding on. And they have dozens of teachers at this school from America who are all these expats looking for this adventure. And it's just a neat community. So, I mean, it really kind of hits, Jonathan, all those boxes that we talk about with just the FI mentality generally. So it's a very cool thing.
All right, more to come on that, but that will be a fantastic episode. Well, let's go ahead and just hop into this past week's episode with Miles. And man, every time he comes on the show, it's a value add. It's so much fun to talk to him. What a storyteller.
Yeah, Miles is amazing. You can just sit back and let him weave that story. And, I think he talked for the first 10 minutes of the podcast, which was so cool. It was like this, hey, how did I get to use Bitcoin in the real world scenario? And I just thought that was neat because so much of the talk around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is around this crazy speculation and, oh, is it going to go up 50% this week or down 40% or whatever it may be? But Miles is actually using it in a real world situation to pay someone he has working for him. And I just thought that was really cool.
And I think what was so attractive about the way that Miles came into this, as you pointed out, was the utility. He found it solved a problem for him. And I think that's one of the criticisms that Bitcoin has had is this hype that's built around it is not based around how it's solving a problem. It's based around how much it's going to be worth tomorrow. You can't afford to miss out because tomorrow it's going to 10x overnight. It's going to 10x 6 months from now. And you could see that from Miles's perspective, that hype is actually frustrating. This is a futurist. This is someone that sees the value in it, but not based on this rabid hype that was so overwhelming in December of 2017, but as this is a record of truth. This is a guy that's in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, he unquestionably is. And he was really very honest. We really tried to approach this entire episode not as some sensationalist thing or clickbait or any nonsense like that. It's just, this is obviously a topic. Cryptocurrency is a topic that is in the news, in the popular culture. And I know I personally just want to understand it a little more because it doesn't make sense to me on the face of it, like how there's any real value in these things. And I'm still not entirely convinced, but at least I understand the concept, especially when you hear someone like Miles talk about, hey, how do I pay a contractor who, with this crazy story of having to go to Western Union and then having to wire money and all this other nonsense and all this friction, right? That's the real issue, is the fees, the friction between passing money or value back and forth between people who may be somewhere in the developing world and are unbanked or have major issues with accessing banks or, like we said, fees and whatnot. Like, there are all these points of friction. And I do, on an intuitive level, understand the point, at least there with the cryptocurrency. But like Miles was saying, there are some major aspects of Bitcoin and the cryptos that are not achieved. He's saying a medium of exchange, right? He was saying that people really aren't taking it right now. You can't walk into your local grocery store and pay with Bitcoin. The fees are still pretty significant. There are some security issues, obviously. You hear about theft of these things all the time. He talked about a store of value where people thought of it as gold 2.0. But to his point, volatility is a major problem when you're talking about a store of value, when something could go up or down 50+% in a 1 or 2 week time span. That isn't what you would relate to a store of value. That's a speculative asset.
There's a couple other points that come to mind too. Although he talked about wanting to use it, he wasn't actually using it at some point because of the volatility, because of how it's 10xing in value. He was hoarding it, right? What he actually had, what he had accumulated up to that point, he was holding on to for fear, essentially, that it might be worth 2 or 3 times more in a few days. So when he was actually using it, he was putting new money in. That way he could instantly transfer it, but he was holding on to everything that he had up to this point. That's a problem. That's a problem if this is a currency. What does that actually mean for people that are finding it now, that are getting into it now? And it's fine, I guess, if you're considering it a utility, but as an investment, I don't know. I think that's really where it comes on to. There was no hype around this 3 or 4 years ago. If you were someone that was excited about Bitcoin and you bought several Bitcoin for $100, God bless you. You've made a ton of money, right? I mean, you can laugh your way to the bank, or you could pull out what your initial investment was and now you're playing with the house's money. I understand that. But I guess when I started that episode with that slightly tongue-in-cheek, hey, that 26-year-old that's got their first $10,000 saved up and they come to you and they want to invest it all on one Bitcoin, what would you say to them? Of course, I would say to them, no, that's crazy. And if you think that now today that this is a reliable place for you to make your first investment, what are you basing it on? You're not basing it on utility. You're not basing it on where you think this is going. You're hoping that you can double or triple your money. You're gambling. This is your first investment. This is a horrible choice for you. And that's why I kind of wanted to start there, because I have siblings coming to me. This is a very personal story. In December of this past year, I have family members who have never made a single investment in their entire life, who have never had any interest in the stock market, in index funds, in real estate, say, should I buy Bitcoin? What is it going to do tomorrow? What is it going to do next week? Can I afford not to buy this? And that's stupid talk. And that's not where Miles is at. You got to differentiate this out. When you're talking about a speculative investment, you need to be able to afford to lose the money. It doesn't change Miles's financial outlook one iota in terms of his FI plan if that money disappears. I guarantee you he may more than made up for what he invested in it and is playing with the house's money at this point and will gain a lot more if Bitcoin continues to gain mass adoption. But if it goes away, he's got other plans at this point. That is not the case for the individual that's finding it now with Bitcoin sitting at $10,000 wanting, hey, I've been hearing about this on the news. Should this be where I start? No, the answer is universally no. That is a bad idea.
Yeah, that person is basically just looking, like we said, over and over again. It's just pure speculation, which to me, the definition is I'm buying something and hoping to sell it to some other sucker in a short-term time span for more than I bought it for, right? You're not looking at the underlying fundamentals. Like when we talk about any stock investment or index funds or even real estate, right? But let's just stock investments. You're buying a little piece of a real corporation that makes real profits and either distributes them through dividends or reinvests and tries to make an even more profitable business, right? So you're the actual owner, albeit a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of that company or companies in the case of an index fund. That at least makes intuitive sense to me. I understand what I'm buying. That to me fits all the definitions of an investment. And that, again, it makes sense. We can get in for very little fees. And we're looking to buy and hold for potentially decades, right? You're not getting in and out. You're not hoping that the stock goes up $4 and then I'm going to sell it as like a day trader would or something like that. That's not how we in the FI community generally. And of course, there are certain people who do their own thing. But in general terms, we are buy and hold investors for a period of decades. And to me, that's how I approach the vast, vast, vast majority of my holdings, my assets. So to me, this kind of speculation with Bitcoin and other cryptos, it doesn't fit that at all. And to your point, Jonathan, I don't think anybody who's 26 years old and is looking to actually invest, it makes any sense for them to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, if you come to me and say, hey, I want to take a gamble on Bitcoin. Okay, now it's a different conversation, right? Let's change the verbiage just a little bit here. And to your point, not everybody can make money on Bitcoin. Somebody had to lose money in this volatility that we saw. It wasn't everybody that got into Bitcoin suddenly 10x'd overnight. The thing is, you don't hear about the losers in this game. You don't hear about the people that heard about the hype in December and decided they were going to get off the sidelines and buy in when Bitcoin was dabbling with $19,000 per coin, and they said, oh, it's going to go to 48, by the end of January, this is where it has to be. It's going to replace currency as it's currently being used. And it's easily at bare minimum going to be worth 28,000 by the beginning of next year. I have to buy it now. Somebody bought at 20K and it went back down to 6. And then they got scared and they sold out. And that person isn't talking. They're quietly embarrassed, moving off the sidelines saying, I'm never going to invest again. Don't let that be you. That should not be your story. That is a tragedy, and that is due to marketing and hype. It's based on fear, and it is absolutely something that is the antithesis of what we're about. We're looking for a simple, replicable path to wealth. Do not fall sucker to that. And the thing is, you get to a place very quickly in life when you structure your financial ground game that you don't need it. Yes, if it works, it's fantastic. And if you're in a place where you can afford to take a little bit more risk, you can potentially get more returns, but you don't need it. You're not operating from this fear of missing out mentality that makes you do stupid financial decisions.
Yeah, and Jonathan, that kind of weird, creepy sensation, as Miles described it in late 2017, I think that's kind of the signal that there's something amiss here. To your point about getting stock tips from your shoe shine boy, like Joseph Kennedy said, whenever you hear something, this is just my own view on life. When I hear something like that in the general population, where literally in December and maybe January of 2017, 2018, every conversation, you couldn't get away. You couldn't go one day without hearing about Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. That was crazy. I mean, that is to me almost the definition of, wow, steer clear as much as you possibly can. And also, when you look at the people who are these crazy Bitcoin investors, I think Miles was kind of alluding to this. You see all these YouTube videos of these 25-year-old kids driving around in Lamborghinis and talking about how they got rich and how you can too. It just reeks of scam. And then there are those HODL people, the hold on for dear life. That's like this acronym that they use it's almost like this religious fervor around these cryptocurrencies. And it's not like rational thought. So these are these little hallmarks of, wow, just be really, really cautious. And to me, it's steer clear until there's some rationality behind this whole thing. And I mean, in fairness, it has dropped 60% from its heights, but who knows? I have no idea what a Bitcoin is going to be worth a year from now. It could be worth anywhere from $1 to 50,000 in my estimation. And I have no idea. I have no way to put any probability on any of those 50,000 different numbers. I have no clue. So for me, that's steer as clear as you can until you understand, what is this? What is it worth? What might it be worth 10 years from now? I have no idea.
And you know what? I was mostly ambiguous to the whole crypto thing. I have plans. My financial plan is not dependent on it. I am focusing on other avenues. It was only interesting to me because I had people from the outside coming up to me talking about it. But I didn't particularly care one way or the other until I went to go purchase a video card so I could go do some video editing for my computer, and a video card that should have costed me $300 was retailing for $800. Like, you just couldn't find it. In fact, people were selling used ones on eBay for $800, and I questioned, what is going on? How is this even possible? Video cards have been around forever. What is driving this? And I just did a little research, aka Google, and I found out that the mining of Bitcoin is reliant on these video cards, putting like 5 or 6 of them into a computer bay, and it is sucking up more energy than the country of Denmark. That is how much energy is going into the void to mine Bitcoin. How is that even possible? In what crazy world do we decide that we need to create some sort of fake algorithm that requires computer chips, and we're just sucking up this energy for nothing? And I guess I could take a very eco perspective on that, and it's kind of selfishly now I'm angry about it because it's costing me money to buy a video card. But just objectively from the outside, that just sounds dumb. Why are we doing this? It just doesn't make sense. PayPal doesn't need this. If this is just a form of transferring currency, why do we need to have these video cards that are involved in this. And sure, okay, fine, a video card. But more importantly than that, in a country, in a world, in a global climate, we're all focusing on energy conservation. We're going to have this one random currency that's sucking up more energy than an entire country. And then an entire country? That's crazy talk.
Jonathan, you're going to become an eco warrior. We heard last time it's the garbage pile bigger than France. Now it's energy more than Denmark. This is I'm very impressed by you.
I know it's totally crazy, but I was so angry when I had to go spend way more on a video card than I was fully anticipating. I was like, well, I could wait for crypto to crash again, but I just don't know when that's going to happen. So yeah, I had to pay at least 20% more than I was expecting on the stupid video card. All right, so Brad, actually, I was kind of surprised that the episode wasn't more polarizing. I know that we really tried hard to present a friendly face, even if me and you as individuals are unlikely to take action and invest, quote unquote, in Bitcoin. We try to at least very much sit on the side of that coin, on the edge of the coin, and see both sides. What feedback did you see come back?
Yeah, we got a comment from Michelle on our Facebook page, and she said, "This episode was great. I have no interest in investing in Bitcoin, but I was having a hard time just understanding the concept. I still don't quite get what makes the price fluctuate if it's basically like PayPal without a government currency. I also wonder if entities like PayPal don't provide transfers for certain countries. Is Bitcoin just open to funding terrorism and other nefarious activities?"
And actually, I think that's a valid question. I think cryptos are, like Miles said, they are the wild, wild west. And while they do have this perfectly legitimate utilitarian purpose, like he said, to pay individual contractors, the fact that they are not regulated as closely mean that there are opportunistic individuals and criminal elements that are also taking advantage of them. Like, for instance, you can lose millions of dollars overnight if you lose control of your wallet, right? I mean, that practical realities are, I know individuals that own millions of dollars, quote unquote, and in current valuation based on where Bitcoin is now, that would be afraid to say publicly that they have this Bitcoin, because it does invite this certain element. I mean, it can, to some degree, it can be just outside the law. I think this is something that the cryptos and Bitcoin, I guess, as the canary in the coal mine, will have to deal with. They will have to come up with more and more regulation. But I think that also flies in the face. Their stated purpose is to be decentralized, to not be able to be controlled by one particular government. So I think they're always going to have to toe that line. And unfortunately, that line is exactly what allows the criminal elements and potentially terrorist organizations to also participate in that system. So I'm not a Bitcoin expert, but there are certainly horror stories of criminal elements that have benefited directly from this system. And now you can't say that banks are totally in the clear with this. I'm sure that they are battling with that same stuff as well, which is why there are all sorts of laws in place to prevent criminal elements from utilizing the banking system as we know it. But that threat is very real.
And Jonathan, I know you got some feedback from William on whether cryptocurrency can truly be decentralized. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and this was something I feel strongly about. I mean, governments have increasing control over every aspect of your life. And William messaged me this today, kind of, I don't know if you could say confirming my fears on this, but at least agreeing with my perspective. He said, your question about centralization attacks against Bitcoin was kind of dismissed, but it is a real issue. A centralization is already occurring under a totalitarian government even. I don't know current stats after their crackdown and ban, but there was a time when the majority of Bitcoin mining occurred in China, a country where a country has the ability to seize assets of companies. Even digital assets can be banned. Digital poker is a good example. Sure, sites can move offshore, but being cut off from the US monetary system has some big impacts. Bitcoin isn't such a great investment if you can't get your money out of the ecosystem and into something where you can actually spend where you are living. And that was kind of my point as well. Sure, you can't track down the servers because they're all over the cloud, but you can make it illegal to get your money out in this particular country. And I think Miles at least responded to that in a very forward-looking way, talking about how there's a competitive advantage for other countries to allow it. But it would be kind of a big deal if a few countries banned crypto altogether. And it was just a way that maybe, I don't know, third world countries can interact. It kind of limits its utility.
Yeah, and it's hard to know, frankly, where this is going to go. But yeah, thinking about these things, that's the important part. So we will see, and certainly stay tuned.
This is kind of what we're looking for. These conversations are valid. People in our community, they are very knowledgeable in very specific areas, far outside of what my or your knowledge base could possibly provide on our own. But it's helpful to bring in all these different perspectives to give us hopefully something that more closely resembles usable knowledge. And William, thank you for weighing in on that. Let's go ahead and talk just what's going on in the community, man. I know in particular, we just recently got back from Camp FI. Really haven't had a chance to talk about that yet. What a fantastic time.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, truly, truly amazing. Steven, the organizer, just absolutely knocked it out of the park. Big kudos to him and a big thank you from us to him. It was really a wonderful event. And I was a little nervous going in. I mean, in my own little funny way, I was worried that I was going to lose my stupid voice again, which thankfully did not happen. I was able to talk the whole time. But B, more importantly, it was a larger event. There were definitely at least 75 people there, which is significantly larger than the normal, I don't know, maybe 40, 45 people that have been at these in the past. So I was a little worried that I wasn't going to get to know everybody or even have 5 minutes to talk to every single person. But I found that I had many, many in-depth, hour-long conversations, so much so that it seemed like a regular, if you will, quote unquote, a regular Camp FI. So, Jonathan, what did you think about the number?
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, I was thrilled with it. I think that there may be some limiting beliefs on how many people you can have at these different events. And I think it's just, what are you trying to create? What are you going for? And I think that Steven found that blend. I think that one of the things we almost take for granted is that because we're collectively in the FI community, we have so much in common. Now, we have a diversity of experiences. We're coming at it from different places. But when you have so much in common, people that would maybe traditionally consider themselves introverts truly can find like minds to get past the small talk and really, talk about what they're passionate about, what they're exploring, what they're struggling with, that sort of thing. So I saw Military Dollar did a write-up on it, which I will link to in the show notes. And she basically called it a summer camp for money nerds, which was perfect. I mean, you really did have the full gamut of activities that you could explore. And if you wanted your alone time, you could get away from that. And there was still things that you could do. You could go for a run, go for a bike ride. But if you wanted to come in and hang out with individuals, there were so many different options, board games, canoeing, high ropes course, and then just plenty of conversation. And when you blend that with the very focused talks that we gave, like Big Earn talking specifically about the 4% rule in person, how powerful is that? Justin talking about pre-retirement versus post-retirement budgeting. And then Hunter coming in and talking in particular about biohacking. It really was this incredibly comprehensive, fun weekend. So I just kind of happened to see in the Camp FI Facebook page, so many people that finished up with that group said, okay, I've got to go back. I'm going to Southwest. I'm going to Camp FI South. I mean, just immediately saying, I got to do another one of these this year. I can't wait till next year for this. So I was thrilled to see how relaxed and how consistent the atmosphere was, going from, a Florida event, which we had a fantastic time, but just seeing that it can be replicated. It's something that people are looking for this and enjoying. And when it works, you're very excited to see it take off.
Yeah, and it certainly works. Steven has hit on a pretty solid formula. I know the actual location was very similar to the one in Florida, even though this was just another retreat center in Virginia. And yeah, like you said, it was amazing. I wonder how many tickets Steven sold for the one in Arkansas and the one in California, just from the people who were there in Virginia, because it certainly seemed like probably a couple dozen of them were just so enthused that they were going out and buying tickets almost immediately. And there definitely still are tickets available. So if anybody listening to this is interested in joining those events, it's just go to ChooseFI.com/Camp FI.
So let's go ahead and bring in some feedback from our community, Brad. And I thought we could start with a frugal win of the week. And actually, this is from Steve, and he says it's a frugal win of the week, the month, the year. And Steve says, I've been binging on all the episodes of ChooseFI. I'm not done yet, but I had to share this. I did our taxes for 2017. And between my full-time job, my wife's part-time job, and my wife's side hustle, we had a federal and state tax bill of about $1,950. I looked for ways to lower this, but I couldn't find anything. Then I got an email from my HSA administrator reminding me that we could still contribute to our HSA for 2017. Since I only entered the FI world last November, I was contributing $50 a paycheck for all of 2017. My company contributes $700 a year, so my total contribution was only about $2,000. That left me with $4,750 I could still contribute for 2017 as long as I do it or did it before the April 17th, 2018 deadline. I immediately made the contribution and my taxes changed dramatically. Now I get a federal refund and my state bill got cut more than in half, leaving me with a total tax bill for 2017 of about $125. The beauty is I could pull this money right back out of the HSA since we went well over that amount on medical expenses for 2017, but we're going to leave it in the HSA and let it grow. How incredible is that?
That's a really cool frugal win. I love that. Yeah, that's a frugal win of the year without question. And to be able to pull the money right back out, because obviously they must have had these receipts just ready to submit. I mean, that is a really, really cool hack. Just talk about the perfect FI hack, right? You're really not doing anything. You're technically putting it in this account for, in this case, probably a couple days or maybe a couple weeks at the absolute most, and then just getting the money back, but getting that tax deduction in the meantime. I mean, that's just remarkable.
And Brad, any frugal wins on your part?
Yeah, I actually did, and I owe this to you. You talked last year at some point about that really cool Amazon.com price tracker called Camel. So, right, it's camelcamelcamel.com.
What an unfortunate name.
It's a bizarre name, but
it works though, right?
It definitely, it's hard to forget. That's for darn sure. And since you told me about this, I've really started using it. And basically, essentially any product at Amazon, which is more or less any product that you could ever want to buy in the world, basically, you either just type in that name at camel, or you just take the Amazon, the identifying number, it's the ASIN number, and just plug it in at their website, camel, and you create a price tracker. And what happens is you get to see a graph of the price. Basically, I think it's for the last year, maybe. There might even be, it looks like a year. You get to see how much the price fluctuates on that item and really every item that you enter. And frankly, I was like blown away by how much variation there was just on random things. Like I've already used this twice now. So I bought a squat rack for my home gym, and this thing was going for like $300, but I saw that once or twice a year, it drops down below 200. I wasn't in any rush to get it. I put a price tracker on it, and I think I got it for, I forget the exact number. It was like 195 or 197. So that was a fantastic win. And then we've been eyeing, since another little Jonathan thing is buying board games, right? So we've been eyeing Settlers of Catan for quite some time and just haven't pulled the trigger on it for whatever reason. But I saw that it's normally somewhere in the vicinity of like $35, but every now and again it goes like below 25. So it actually dropped down to like an all-time low of, I think I bought it for, $23.85, and got that price tracker email and just bought the thing. So it was real. And actually today, it's just a week later, it's already up to $35. So that's how much variation there is on Amazon pricing generally. So that's the real takeaway for the audience here is you would be shocked at how much these prices move. So anything that you're thinking about buying, even in the next year, or, hey, I might like to buy that, like these board games that Jonathan does. I know you have dozens of these price tracks on these games because you don't want to buy it at retail price. But if it goes down 50% or something, hey, maybe it's worth it at that point. So really anybody out there listening can take any product you're looking to buy, plug it into Camel, make an account there, and just get these emails. And then you decide, hey, wow, this hit my price. Should I buy?
Yeah.
And it's so cool, right?
It is. And it's a little bit addictive, unfortunately, which is why I think I still have like 5 or 6 board games that are still unopened because my ability to purchase them was exceeding my ability to play them. But it's so powerful. And you'd find a game, you'd see the price, and you'd be like, all right, I'll see you later, because you can get such a great deal on them. And it's crazy, the variability. I would say there are items that have variability and items that do not. You'll go on a Camel, and you'll see that this item has changed price one time over the last 36 months. All right, that's probably not going to be a good one for this to work on. But board games, they change every month, every day, multiple times a day. And the variability is easily up to 40, 50%. So yeah, that's like the perfect. And also another one is if you're purchasing stuff for like an upcoming baby. So you have a baby that's going to be arriving in the next 9 months and you need to do like a baby registry or anything along those lines. Massive variability in baby products. So that would kind of go against the frugalist aspect of what can you get for free. So maybe go with that one first. But on the other side of that, if you are going to be buying stuff retail, this would be definitely the way to do it. So Brad, we got a question from Kelly. If you were going to give advice to your college-age daughters about personal finance, but you want to keep it limited to 5 bullet points, what would they be? These points need to be simple and memorable, but if followed, will provide the foundation for a good, financially fit life. I have tried to do this exercise myself, but it's harder than you think because there's so much you want to share. I love that. I don't have the perfect answer. I thought maybe we could riff off of each other and see what we could come up with. So you have 5 bullet points and you're hoping that they will be memorable for your daughter or daughters as they proceed through college. Let's see what we can come up with.
All right. This is always frightening to be thinking about this right off the top of your head, because almost invariably you're going to come up with something that you wish you added. But yeah, it'll be fun to kind of go through it. So, all right, my first is save at least 50% of your income. This certainly hits the kind of bullet point type thing, and it's definitely memorable. If you want to get on a path to FI, and before you've succumbed to any type of lifestyle inflation, saving 50% of your income isn't impossible, right? I mean, unfortunately, many people spend it on housing and cars, like Scott Trench, our friend at Bigger Pockets, has talked about. That's roughly 50% of your budget. So if people in the FI community can come right out of college and not get hit with those things, or not buy an expensive car, not buy any car, frankly, or house hack, right? Or house hack, I should say, and maybe cut your living expenses down to almost zero, or in my case, live at home and save money. I didn't need to be some big adult, right? Quote unquote, adult who had his own place and was spending a couple $1,000s a month on a 1-bedroom apartment. No, I lived at home and I saved oodles and oodles of money. I was way over 50% for those first couple of years while I was saving for a down payment for what eventually turned into this apartment that I bought, and really catapulted me. Those couple of years catapulted me to my future path to FI. So to me, the very simple bullet point that I think anybody can remember is get started and save 50% of your income.
And it's even more than that. That doesn't start at college. I think as you're saying this now, I'm realizing that is something that on day one, as soon as there is any income that comes into play with my child, that is not a deviation from the mean. That is the mean. That is what you do. You save 50%. That is the norm. That is what you're striving for. And that is like almost the minimum. You have no bills when you are a child. You are entirely dependent on your family system. Take advantage of that. That becomes your norm, and that will carry with you once you are on your own, once you are becoming independent on the path to financially independent. That is incredibly powerful advice, and it can be started way before they're getting ready to go to college. All right, so let me chip in with number 2 here. I'm thinking number 2 would be opportunity cost. You are not following a normal path. You are second generation FI. You are on this path now. So every dollar that you earn in your teens, every dollar that you earn in your 20s is worth more than a dollar than you earn in your 50s, especially when it's stacked on top of that 50% savings rate. This is incredibly powerful. And I think you need to, in order to understand this, you got to build in additional things like the rule of 72, explaining to your child how the rule of 72 works, understanding future value calculations and compound interest. That's part of this. But if you stack that on top of the number 1 bullet point, which was that 50% savings rate, your journey is going to be a 10 to 15 year journey. And if you're starting that at the age of 17 or 18, you've got your financial runway completed, regardless of profession or career, by the time that you're 28.
Yeah, an opportunity cost is a very powerful concept. And I'm not sure that hits necessarily the bullet point of memorable, but maybe memorable just in that it's kind of an odd phrase. You don't hear it all that often, but I guess on this podcast you do. But it's really what is foregone when you make a decision. So every decision in life has an opportunity cost because you're giving up every other possibility of what you could have done, right? That's what a decision is. So there is opportunity costs inherent in everything. And I know we've talked about that recently, Jonathan, with college, right? College, there's a huge opportunity cost. What would have happened if you and I didn't go to a 4-year college and spend a good bit of money and we had started working as an electrician's apprentice at 18 years old? Would we have reached FI at 26? Maybe. I mean, it's unknowable, obviously, but again, I'm just trying to illustrate there's opportunity cost. I spent 4 years at an expensive liberal arts college, and albeit got a nice accounting degree that I could get a job from, but that was 4 years of foregone earnings and the amount of money that I spent, right? So that's the opportunity cost there. So I think that is just an important fundamental concept mentally for life, is the concept of opportunity cost. It's what you're giving up when you make a decision. All right, Jonathan, for me, number 3 would be long-term, low-cost investing. So for us, it's index funds, specifically, let's say S&P 500 or total stock market index fund. Of course, there's room for discussion around that. But generally speaking, we like to buy and hold. We like to make investing simple. Okay? We believe that we are not going to outsmart the market over a 50-year period. No amount of study, no amount of effort is going to lead us, in our estimation, to beat the market. So I'd frankly rather not try and incur all those costs, right? There's costs every time you sell, every time you buy. There's all these commissions. There are taxes when you actually realize a sale of a security. So there's lots of friction that's built up when you actively trade and when you actively manage. In terms of fees, like active managing, I'm talking about with mutual funds. So I would prefer always to invest in low-cost index funds and just let this ride for decades. Just keep on buying through ups and downs. Don't get worried about stock market corrections or crashes or even crazy run-ups. Those things happen, and they will obviously happen over a 50-plus year investing life. But you stay the course. You keep investing month after month with any excess money you have. And of course, we can always talk about different investments like real estate. There's certainly room for that. But for me, it's if you can make the centerpiece of your investing life low-cost index funds, then you're going to have a pretty successful life for decades to come.
And I think part of that wasn't addressed is this idea of removing resistance. And as a parent giving this advice to your kids, you can help with this. Your child should know how to log in to an account, to see their funds, how to actually purchase additional funds, and then be able to view that over time. This is one of these skills that many people don't learn until their 30s, don't learn until their 40s. They've lost that window. If you have already been able to coach them through the process and help them set up those accounts so they have that Roth, basically set up as soon as they get that first job at the age of 13 or 14, and they're saving 50% of the income, and that's done. And they've actually been helped to purchase that first fund and then track what that is actually doing. It becomes real. And then now it's not one of these things that gets kicked down the road into their 30s. And now they're at the age of 35 and they're figuring out how to do this now that they finally have a positive net worth again, that they've paid off all of their student loan debt. Now they're thinking about this sort of thing. Rather, this was built into their educational process at a much younger age. You can't get back that time, but if it's already set up for you, it can be very easy to continue with that framework. So I think for number 4, Brad, I want to talk about both career selection and multiple income streams. So for career selection, for the FI community, if once you're saving 50%, we're looking at a 10 to 15 year timeline. This is not the job that you are doing for the rest of your life. This is a tool. Your career is a tool to get you to financial independence. That may change how you select it. I think that there is several cultures, and probably it goes far beyond a particular culture, that feel that there are only 4 jobs worth getting. And they are in the STEM world. And so everybody needs to be, a doctor or in a medical profession, an engineer, an architect, or maybe there's another one in there that I could tie to that. But this is very, very misleading, very misleading. I mean, that views your career as your identity, and your identity being something that you're going to do for the next 40 or 50 years. Going back to what we talked about with opportunity cost, your career, your profession is a tool to get you to financial independence. And if we figure out a way to get to a 50% savings rate, it does not really matter what particular profession you choose. In fact, I would encourage you to find something that you love doing. Make sure all the numbers work. Make sure that it's going to allow you to hit that median income and that you're going to be able to, race toward this path of financial independence. But I don't think you need to limit yourself to these 3 or 4 professions that society tells you have to do. Your timeline is 10 to 15 years. So you just got to think about that and weigh that into it. And then the other path of that is multiple income streams. Don't be 100% reliant on your job. There's so many, it's almost cliche how many movies talk about that soldier, that foot soldier that did everything they were supposed to do and then just got sacked at the end of their, towards the end of their profession as they were expecting that guaranteed pension or that guaranteed whatever. Their job let them go. Job security is you having a strong financial ground game, you not relying solely on that W-2 paycheck, you having other things in place for you, never being willing to settle and not consider entrepreneurship. What if you can start thinking about entrepreneurship as a kid where you have multiple small businesses? Maybe they take off, maybe they don't. You look into real estate and you get some sort of real estate venture. That's a weakness for me, something that I'm scared of, but don't be scared of it. This is a journey. This is exciting. Think about how you can start to create passive income for yourself and your future family down the road. This is your life to live, and you don't need to settle for this one predictable 40 to 60 year path to traditional retirement. Do what you love and find a way to monetize it along the way.
Yeah. And Jonathan, to your point about it not just being those couple of careers, those high prestige careers, that is so important. It almost doesn't matter in a sense. And I don't say that lightly, and maybe that's not as precise as I want to be possibly, but you don't need to have one of those high prestige careers to achieve FI, certainly. And sure, maybe a high income would help, but it's always that path. It's about that savings rate. It's about getting started early, right? These are the important things. I talk about my brother sometimes about how when he graduated college and he went to one of the best schools in the country, but he got a psychology degree and he didn't have a job coming right out like I did with an accounting degree. So he lived at home and he worked as a waiter and a bartender. Now, those aren't technically high prestige careers, but what he did was he saved just like me. He saved 80 to 95% of his income. And by the time he got, in his eyes, a quote unquote real job teaching, he had already saved, I forget what the exact number was, but certainly tens of thousands of dollars. And is that some poor waiter and bartender at some chain restaurant? No. In my estimation, that's someone who is wealthy. That's a 24-year-old kid at that point who is pretty wealthy just because he followed the FI mentality even before he knew what the FI mentality was, right? It's just cutting your expenses and saving as much as you possibly can. So yeah, I mean, that is real crucial stuff to me. And I guess for number 5, I would say, just to sum up this entire way of life, is think a little bit differently. Think a little bit differently about everything. Just apply some thought, apply some strategy to your life, and also look at life through the prism of financial independence, which is a very different life strategy than virtually every single person around you is living, right? They're living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by, and looking at, hey, maybe I can retire if I'm lucky in my 60s, to you having what could be a 5 to 20 year path to FI, no matter when you're starting, right? That causes a fundamental rethink on life. We just had that email before from Steve talking about his HSA. That's a perfect example of thinking a little bit differently. He realized, hey, I have some room in this account where if I get it in before April 17th, before the tax deadline, I can get a tax deduction and then literally turn right around and get reimbursed for them because I have the medical expense receipts sitting right here. And that saved him, according to him, a couple $1,000s. That is a remarkable thing. How many people in the general public are thinking that way? 1 out of 100? 1 out of 1,000? I mean, I don't know precisely, but it's pretty darn low. So to me, it's those kind of things. Just look at life as this fun game to win at and just think that little bit differently. And yeah, just in summation, and Jonathan, of course, I want to hear what you think, but it's this strategy gives you this power. It gives you this ability to take control of your life, and it's really worth it. And that's about the best way I can describe it.
I agree.
Mic drop. Thank you, sir.
And Kelly, thank you so much for the question. This is so useful for us to kind of work through this stuff, and hopefully for our audience, for the community at large. I really am happy with how this came out. I mean, this is exactly, if you can communicate these concepts, and it doesn't have to be to your college age kid. If you can start building a framework of how money works and how the world should work, if you can start instilling these concepts and ideas to your kids, this is what the curriculum for second generation FI looks like. This is absolutely it. If they get to their teen years, if they get to their college age years and are embracing these ideas, they're set. You have done what you needed to do to give them a good financial ground game. Everything else will fall into place from there. All right, now I got a voicemail that's very closely tied to this, talking about a really cool career opportunities that totally are in line with what we just talked about. And I think that's one of the things that's really fascinating about this show. It's fine to say that not everybody needs to become a doctor or a lawyer. Oh, that's the one I missed. Lawyers, engineers, or an architect. But what are those other options that aren't getting talked about? What are these other lanes to this median income or beyond career path that you can get into, and it can supercharge your path to FI? Jim called in with a voicemail that he wants to share.
All right, I just want to start off and thank you guys, of course, for the content you're putting out and the community you've brought together. Greatly appreciate it. I'm enjoying it, being in the Facebook group and hearing everybody's stories. Just wanted to briefly and hopefully coherently highlight a couple of fairly common careers that me and my wife have chose that are helping us on our path to FI. I know you love talking about second generation FI, and while my family never really spoke about finances at all, when I was growing up, and at least about to finish high school, I look around and my father and both my uncles are retired in their 40s and are financially independent. The thing they all had in common was they were retired firefighters. So that's what I did. I became a firefighter, and I got hired on my department when I was 21 years old with no college degree, making a very decent income, which has only gone up from there. Obviously, the way that is going to help me on the path to FI is, number one, there's a government pension. If things stay the way they are and I do a 25-year career, which, by the way, would put me retiring at 46, my pension will be more than double my FI number, basically, on my yearly income. That's great. You don't want to completely rely on a pension. You never know what's going to happen, even if they half my pension benefits, I'll still be at FI just based on that. So I don't know that I want to work till 46, though. Maybe I want to retire early. I'm utilizing my 457 that I have available to me. Basically, I can do 10 or 15 years in my career, and I can live off my 457, among other investments, but my 457, and then my pension still has me at FI just from doing half a career. So there's that. Aside from that, my work schedule is incredible. I work 2 24-hour shifts a week, so I go to work 2 days a week. Obviously, I could use that in my FI journey to start a side hustle, a second business, a second job, anything like that. I like how you guys talk about owning, making mistakes, but if they work for you. So currently, I like to use that as a life hack and spend my 5 days off with my 6-month-old daughter and my wife. I said I have no degree, though I am almost finished with my bachelor's degree that is completely paid for my department. So that's just a brief overview of my career. And now I'd like to highlight my wife's. She is an emergency room nurse. So in contrast, she went to normal 4 years of college, got her bachelor's of science in nursing. And most people know the benefits of nursing, flexible schedule, it's a great career, good pay. But we have found what we think is kind of the ultimate career hack, where she actually does a seasonal travel assignment, 7-month contract every single year at the same hospital. It's about 50 miles away from where we live. And they pay her nearly double what she would normally make at another hospital for those 7 months, which allows her to have 5 months off, which we don't really have 5 months off. She'll work part-time at a different hospital for 5 months and then continue that trend every year. Again, she works 3 12-hour days a week, so we just use that again as a life hack to spend a lot of time together as a family. In retirement, as far as her career goes, just to have some more income when she retires early and to travel the country, we plan on doing more travel assignments in places that are not local. We can travel, do 3-month, 4-month, whatever, 6-month contracts, so we can travel around the country, and they'll pay you handsomely and put you up your lodging, pay for your housing during that time, generally speaking. So that's just a basic overview of a couple of careers that can be utilized very well in the path of FI. Again, thank you for everything you guys are putting out. And any other questions, I'm on the Facebook group. Please contact me. Direct any questions you have to me about those. Thank you.
It's exciting, Brad. It's so exciting to see how other people are tackling this game and just absolutely crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, how lucky are we to be in this community where all these incredible people exist and are doing just these little kind of offbeat strategies, but they're not unusual. There's nothing weird about this. It's just these little life hacks that just work. And I'm sure there's someone out there listening to Jim's voicemail and saying, holy cow, my family member is an ER nurse. Maybe we could do those seasonal travel assignments, right? In his case, his wife is only going 50 miles away, but it's paying her nearly double. And then they have this thing where she's working 3 12-hour days. He's working his 2 days and then has 5 days off a week to spend with his wife and the 6-month-old. I mean, it is just really, really cool. Jim, what an awesome voicemail. Thank you.
And Brad, you remember a couple weeks ago when I left, I think it was on our episode called Left Behind. I think it was like episode 70 or 71R. And I was just kind of struggling with the realities of how much trash and plastic is filling up our oceans.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, I just saw an article on my homepage. It was under the tagline, World-Changing Ideas. The revolutionary giant ocean cleanup machine is about to set sail. Boyan Slat dropped out of school to work on his design for a device that could collect the trillions of pieces of plastic floating in the ocean. After years of work, it's ready to take its first voyage. This is amazing. And there's one additional paragraph. It said, some scientists have been skeptical that the idea is feasible, but Slat, undeterred, dropped out of his first year of university to pursue the concept and founded a nonprofit to create the technology. This organization, Brad, actually raised over $2.2 million in crowdfunding. And by the end of 2018, the nonprofit is saying it's going to be able to bring back its first harvest of ocean plastic from the North Pacific, along with concrete proof that this actually works. They are expecting to bring in 5,000 kilograms of plastic per month with the first system. And if they can get a full fleet of these, the organization thinks it can collect half of the plastic trash in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the one that I was talking about, around 40,000 metric tons within 5 years. This is what it looks like to find a problem and solve it. This is incredible. And I just, if I was kind of depressed that week, I'm blown away that this is actually happening.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm sure you will keep us updated over the months and years. And yeah, I love that you are basically searching for this so much that probably Google and Facebook are serving it up to you in their
You
little
are so
algorithm.
right. That's exactly what it is. Google knows me too well.
That's fantastic.
All right, man. Well, unfortunately, that's going to bring this episode to a close. Now, as you guys know, we like to finish every episode by doing a drawing for a copy of a book that we have found useful. There's 3 books that we offer. We have J.L. Collins' book, The Simple Path to Wealth, Dominic Cortuccio's book, Design Your Future, and Vincent Puglisi's book, Freelance to Freedom. If you want to enter this drawing, it's super simple. All you got to do, just go to ChooseFI.com/iTunes, follow the instructions there, and leave us a short written review either on iTunes or Stitcher. And then send us an email to feedback@ChooseFI.com, letting us know that you left a review and what screen name you left it under. We announce the winners every week on the Friday Roundup. We give away 1 book for every 5 written reviews that we get. And Brad, how many winners do we have today?
All right, Jonathan, we have 2 winners today. And the first winner is Don, who sent the review in through Stitcher. And he said, I discovered ChooseFI about 3 weeks ago after being mentioned on a different podcast. Came over to listen to the Pillars of FI episode. Loved it so much that I went back to number 1 and listened to all of them at 1.5x speed. Within just a few episodes, ChooseFI has rapidly become my all-time favorite podcast. Not only do they talk about personal finance, as many do, they throw in life hacks from every aspect to improve your life, not only with finances, but with overall happiness and health. Brad and Jonathan make the show super entertaining. I've been sharing it with everyone I know that would benefit from it. Wish it had been around 20 years ago to guide me on the right path. Luckily, I can now use the techniques discussed to help my teenage kids be better prepared for their adult lives and reach FI at an early age. We are now putting these strategies in place for our family life as well to dig out of debt and work towards FI. Thanks for all you do to improve the lives of millions, future generations will hail ChooseFI as the keystone of our community.
Well, that's awesome.
Wow.
That's a futurist. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. Really appreciate it. And Jonathan, our second winner is Matt.
And Matt says, consistently practical and inspiring. If you found that Dave Ramsey's baby steps ended too early, this is the podcast for you. ChooseFI dives into the finer points of being a steward of your resources, taking responsibility for your past choices, as well as your future choices, and provides countless contrarian views to the assumptions of daily life. Brad and Jonathan are quick to invite different opinions and admit when they have been wrong or haven't done something justice. Today ends my month-long bender of listening to ChooseFI back catalog, 143 episodes of practical, thought-provoking, inspiring, balanced personal finance theory and life hacks. This was the first podcast where I slowed playback speed down to 1.1 so I can soak up the finer points of concepts that I could not grasp on my own. Example would be the IRA conversion ladder. I'm so thankful for the Friday roundups in which the host and the community break down the Monday episodes, looking further in depth, providing greater context, or stepping through real-world examples with math to put flesh and bones on financial concepts. I pepper my poor wife with podcasts and articles, and this is the first podcast where she has requested that we keep listening at the end of an episode. This is leading to true perspective change for us and is reaching my wife in ways that meet her where she is, where mustachian face punches could not always reach. The fire is spreading, thanks to you, my friends. Matt, thank you so much. We're truly grateful and unbelievable. You went through 143 episodes in 1 month. You understand the limits of my vocabulary. All right, guys, if you got value from the show today, if you got value from the episodes up to this point, take 1 second, press the subscribe button on the platform you're listening to this on. It just lets the providers know you're getting value from the show and you want to be here when we produce additional content. The fire is spreading, my friends. We'll see you next time as we continue to go down the road less traveled.
You've been listening to ChooseFI Radio Podcast, where we help middle-class America build wealth, one life hack at a time.